Hey everybody, today I have a wonderful and very special guest. Kailash Satyarthi is here to talk to us today about his documentary, The Price of Free. But I would just love for you first to kind of let my audience know who you are and how you got started with what you do. Because if you didn't know, his whole life's work and goal is to end child slavery, meaning every child has the right to a childhood. How did that get started for you?
Well, if people ask me who you are, normally I say that I am a child, because I don't want to let the child inside me die. Because for me, childhood means purity, transparency, simplicity, quest for more learning new things, forgiveness. So it is not an age. It's always a virtue or a value which everybody should keep as childhood for whole of their life.
Totally.
So this is me. So
I love it, yes.
Feel free to talk to me as you're talking to a child.
Okay.
And then I recall the very first incident of my life that was perhaps the first spark. I was five and a half year old and went to school. It was the first day. I found a child of my age sitting outside the school. He was a cobbler. And when we were entering the school, me and my friends, he was looking at us on our feet. And I could not understand why he's looking at there, because I've not met a cobbler boy before. So I went inside the school and asked to my teacher that, sir, why a child is sitting outside and not with rest of us in the classroom? Because we were told since our senses that everybody has to go to school. And my teacher told, oh, Kailash, this is your first day, calm down, make new friends. This is very common, he said. Poor children have to help the families and work. I was not convinced. So when I went back home, I asked to my parents and my friends. Everybody had similar answer. And I was watching this boy every morning while going to school and coming back from school, sitting under the open sun, no shade. And since we were all having new shoes, so there was no job to give it to him. And I could see in her eyes the emptiness, the pain. And one day I gathered my courage and asked to him and his father, who was also sitting alongside and working. Boy was shy, but father answered, sir, we have never thought about it, because my grandfather, my father and I started going to school since our childhoods, and so is my son, he said. And then he took a pause, and then he looked at me and said that, sir, you don't know that you are born to go to school and we are born to work. What was that? I could not really understand it, but I was angry that why some children are born to work at the cost of their childhood, which is most precious, and freedom. This is the divine gift. How can you allow this to happen? So I started thinking like that, and that had given me a different perspective of life. One is that what my teacher, my mother, my father, my friends, elderly people say may not be true, may not be righteous, may not be justified. They have been there for it is happening for ages, for centuries, because of caste system, because of apartheid, because of this and that. I completely refuse to accept it, and this perspective of life gave me to question the wrongs around me. And I started helping other children by way of collecting old books or some money for their fees, because it was expensive and many children dropped out from schools. So I started doing like that when I was 13, 14, 11, 12-year-old. So I did it like that.
Yeah, you're such a thoughtful child.
So anyway, but it gave me joy. Every day when I was able to help a child who was needy and who could go to school and could get books, it gave me immense pleasure. Then my whole thinking and my resolve to work for the cause of children got more and more strengthened. But my parents wanted to make me an engineer. I was good at mathematics and science, so they thought that, oh, that's good. And I got a scholarship, of course, but of course that was very expensive study. I was graduated from there, and then I taught in the university. But I always believe that if you follow your heart, then the mind will follow you. And if your mind will follow you, then the world will follow you. Yeah. But the most important thing is to ignite that compassion in the heart and follow that heart. I did it. I gave up my career. That was tough.
I'm going to say, were you scared? Because even myself, like from what I do online, I quit my full-time job and I was terrified.
Oh, yeah.
I worked so hard, I went to school for so long. My
No,
mom
no,
was
no,
like,
but
what are you doing?
yeah, so I tell you that you join me. Then you will not be terrified with that. Yeah.
It's scary.
It's scary. Yeah, actually it is there. But in my case, since I have a very clear mission of life, I wanted to do something good for these children. But the conventional wisdom about it was that you open a school for poor children or orphanage for needy children or help them with food or shelter or something like that. But as an electrical engineer or a system engineer, I could see beyond that it was not simply the conventional charity which can help in solving the problem. The problem lies deep-rooted. It has a systemic cause, and we have to understand it, analyze it, and then respond to it. So that was tough. And the most difficult thing was that child slavery was not a subject which was talked about or nobody heard about it.
Even when I brought it up with my own mother, I said, I'm doing this thing, I really want to raise awareness, and there's this amazing documentary coming out. She's like, how can you watch that? That's so terrible. And I'm like, how can you not?
Yeah.
You know? And I think that a lot of people, when things are difficult or uncomfortable, want to turn away.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important that we turn towards it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because if you turn your eyes with a problem, the problem will haunt you.
And it doesn't go away, right? Like, look, ignorance doesn't.
Yeah, ignorance perpetuates and multiplies the problem. So we always say that let us walk from ignorance to knowledge about the things, and then see that how it can affect us also.
Yes.
Because if somebody think that, oh, this is the problem of India, this is the problem of poor countries, they are not true.
No, it said Los Angeles.
It's Los Angeles, where
And
we are sitting now.
I thought undocumented children down in the garment district.
Absolutely.
I 100% believe that, like, that's happening, and it's important that people
And
know.
in the tobacco farms, you will find children working in early age, and it's very dangerous for them. It is hazardous work, but it is not outlawed in US.
That blew my mind too, that of all the countries to not sign on to. So to kind of move along in your story, when you started actually doing the advocacy work, how did that begin for you?
Well, so I quit the job just to find my path. Or because it was there was no other example, there was no other person who was working on this issue anywhere in the world, not only in India. Google was not yet invented to find, but even then through my own sources, you can remember that time. So it's very difficult. So how to go, what to do, and I don't want to, as I said, do some conventional charity work. So I thought that let us educate the people about this issue, that it is the denial of human dignity. It is denial of freedom, which is unacceptable in any civilized world, cultured society. So I thought that let us talk about it. I started talking, meeting. It was not enough, so I decided to write in the newspapers. And so newspaper published some articles, some newspapers, but later on they said, it is saturated, this subject cannot be repeated again and again.
Like we've done all we can do.
We have done already. So I thought that, okay, so let us publish my own magazine. So I started a fortnightly named Struggle Shall Continue. This was again an experiment in media that this was totally devoted for the issues of children and women who were most deprived, most exploited. And also, I wanted to bring the success stories, because I don't believe in despair. If hope will eventually prevail, then why you should live with despair and hopelessness?
Yeah.
Yeah, if the truth will prevail, then why you live in untruth? Or justice will prevail one day, so why you should be caught with injustices and so on and frightened of it? I'm not frightened with injustices. I fight with it. Yeah, keep fighting, because eventually justice will prevail. So I thought that, okay, the people who are trying to change this situation, they should also be highlighted. They should also be shown like heroes. So I started finding those people. So my wife Sumedha, who was a journalist before, she was a big help, and we started a magazine called Struggle Shall Continue. So one day, that was in March 1981, a desperate father knocked my door, whose daughter was about to be sold to a brothel. She was 15-year-old. And this guy, his name was Wasal Khan, he was a Muslim guy. And he was lying on my feet and crying that, "Sir, please save my daughter." And when I started writing his story, I found that 17 years ago, he and his newly married wife were lured away from his village on the false promise that they will earn good money at a brick kiln. But during those years, they were not paid anything. They were not allowed to leave the place. They were given only some food to eat and live like animals. And all children were born and grew up there, including this girl, Sabo, 15-year. And one day, the mother found that some brothel agent came and they were touching her body parts and just negotiating the price. They wanted to buy her. And luckily that day, the deal was not materialized. And this father, in desperation, jumped into a brick-loaded truck in the middle of the night without knowing where to go and what to do, to seek some help. And
he had to kind of run away, like break out.
He ran away, one of them. This father.
To find you.
They find someone. He didn't know me, he didn't know anyone, but he was just wanted to find some way out. So the truck reached to a place where he met a subscriber of my magazine, and he suggested that go to Kailash and he will help you. He will write you a story so that perhaps the government agencies can help. So he came only with this expectation that I'm going to write his story. But when I was writing, I thought that if she was my sister, what would I do? I was 26, 27-year-old. Or if she was my daughter, what would I do? My son was 1 year old that time. So I decided to go and rescue that girl, because that connects with my life mission. I wanted to do something which is really action. So I told that I'll go. We went there, we were beaten up, we had to come back home. That was
were you scared going?
Not really. I was very, very confident that first of all, I believe in freedom. I believe in liberty. That was so deep-rooted in my heart that everybody is born free, and that is the gift of the God. So, and the Constitution of India and the international treaties and laws were there. So I knew that I could be attacked or anything could happen. And it was difficult because we didn't have money that time. So I requested Sumedha, my wife, to give her a wedding ornament so that we can hire a truck or a car, all the logistic preparations, not to take back this family, but there were more than 30 people, as this man told me. So somehow we were able to reach there, but Vasal was caught, we were thrown away and beaten, and we had to come back barefooted, empty hands. But I never live in empty heart. I could remain with empty hands, because I believe that the solution of every problem lie in the problem itself. We have to wait, we have to work hard, we have to find some strategy with self belief, but also trust in the society. So we came back and I reached to court. So with the help of court, we have been able to rescue not only this beautiful sister of mine, 15-year-old Sabo, but 36 children, women and men.
Wow.
And that was the moment of truth for me. When these children were coming back and jumping on the streets,
And the joy in
as
their
they're
faces.
free, the joy on their face was something like glimpse of God. And the mothers were hugging them, kissing them. The tears were rolling down on their cheeks because they could not believe that their children would ever be freed like that.
Yeah, probably thought they might never see them
Yeah,
again.
they have never, yeah. So they were so happy, and that joy of freedom was some sort of glimpse of God for me. And since then I never looked back.
Yeah.
So thanks to this father and this girl who have shown me the path. And that was the first recorded or documented incident anywhere in the modern times.
You're kidding?
To free the
Yeah.
children, free the slaves like that. There was no organization that time in the world. There was no individual. People thought that slavery has been abolished 100 years ago with the proclamation of.
I even thought that going into the film.
Yeah.
I mean, because I was aware ahead of time, I knew that it was still existing. But prior to YouTube letting me know about this film, I thought, well, aren't we done with that? I knew that was an issue, but how is that still happening?
Yeah, this is happening unfortunately in every part of the world.
Yeah, it is really unfortunate. And so after that first incident and freeing those girls, is that when you started, is it BBA, am I saying?
Yeah, then after that, I felt that there is a need of an organization. We can't do it alone. And then we have set up this Bachpan Bachao Andolan, BBA. The literal meaning is Save the Childhood Movement. So I tried to build up that movement. And people have shown interest in it. Media has shown interest in it. There were a lot of opposition. And then, but the judiciary was very helpful because they understood the gravity of the problem, and we started freeing children with the help of court. But unfortunately, India did not have a law against child labor of its own. There were old British laws, but no the proper law. So it took us, me and my organization, 5-6 years for such a law. And in 1986, the federal law against child labor has been adopted by the parliament.
Yay.
So that was the beginning.
It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, right direction. So I always felt that there was no single solution to a complex problem. And interconnectivity of the problems has to be understood and analyzed properly. So freeing children was one way of helping and feeling accomplished and happy and empowered. That gives a joy, it changes your life. Totally. Every time you free a child, you feel that you are freeing yourself.
Yes,
you can imagine.
Totally
Yeah. And what else could be better than this, to see that moment, and you are the part of it. Then laws, policies, people's participation, awareness in the society, all these things were different steps and different strategies to attack this problem from all corners and solve it forever. So I kept on learning from my own experience. Many people will surprised to know that until 1989, there was no international law for protection of rights of children. Rights of children were not comprehensively articulated until that. Only in 1989, the United Nations adopted the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which US has not yet ratified. But 1989 is just yesterday, I would say.
Yeah, it's in my lifetime.
Yeah, in the history of humankind.
Yes.
So for me, I believe that these 40 years of my life are so rewarding and accomplishing that the world has not achieved in 4,000 years or 5,000 years, which has been achieved in 40 years only for the protection of children, for the dignity, respect and well-being of children. That is very new. So I won't give this credit to me, definitely. I'm not too humble, that is reality. But I put some spark or some ignition to enlighten, some candles here and there, and the light, and that has created bigger impact or ripple impact.
Yeah, and I always tell my audience, because I talk about mental health on my channel, I always say bad things grow in the dark, but if you shed light, that's when,
of course.
And so it's like you're shedding light on an issue that people for years have looked away or wanted to ignore, and that's really powerful. That, it gets people like me inspired and want to create change. And so I know we're just talking like child slavery. How many children are we talking about when you started the BBA?
When I started BBA, nobody has any idea about the magnitude of the problem, the numbers and other things, because nobody was, So estimates begin later on because it was a non-issue that time. So when we have been successful in bringing in political debate and the governments started paying attention to it, then the people started estimating, or the government started estimating. And that time, the number was at least 60 million to 100 million. In India alone, 60 million.
Jeez,
And then, according to government data now, the number is 4.3 million.
Okay.
And non-governmental statistics suggest that it could be between 20 to 30 million. So from say 60 million to 20 million is a progress. We have been able to do it. Or if we believe in government data, definitely it is much more lesser, 4.3 million in India. But globally speaking, the number of child laborers were growing in 70s, 80s and 90s. By year 2000, the number reached to 260 million globally.
Oh my God.
And that was such a shocking thing because it was gradually rising up. Then we organized, because I believe in the oneness of humankind. I cannot really understand. I tell you that I can, and I cannot really understand the borders, the visas, the passports. What is this? This is one earth for everyone. So I thought that these children who are working in Pakistan or in Nepal or my neighboring countries, they are my children and I have to work for them, despite of all these political and diplomatic or enmity and so on. But I started working in those countries. Then I thought that let us fight for an international law. There was no international law. I'm talking about this different law. One is the the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child was adopted in 1989. But there was no law against child slavery, child trafficking, child prostitution until 1999. 1999,
so crazy.
Very recent. So in 1998, I thought that let us demand for a law. So people laughed at me. Oh, Kailash, you are an ordinary person. You are not a prime minister, not a president of a country, and you are suggesting an international law. I said, the people's voice, the ordinary people can make difference. We experienced in India, let us experience worldwide. So we organized a march across 103 countries that went that has covered 80,000 kilometers distance.
Wow.
And you know what is 80,000 kilometers? This is double than the periphery of the earth.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there were 3 marches, one from Sao Paulo, one from Manila, and other one from Cape Town. All these marches merged in Geneva with this demand to United Nations, to International Labour Organization, that we need a law right now. And 15 million people participated altogether in it. And most of them were children and young people. And they shouted everywhere. And inside the UN Palace in Geneva, in front of ILO's General Assembly, where all the governments were present there, and they said that no more tools in tiny hands. We want books, we want toys. No more child exploitation. We children want education. And the voice of children was not only loud and clear, but it was so pure. It was so powerful, it cannot be ignored by any politician on the earth. And within a week, a resolution has been passed that we should make such a law. And within a year, the following year in 1999, the ILO Convention on the Worst Forms of Child Labor has been unanimously adopted by the international community. And that time, as I said, number of child laborers were 260 million.
Yeah.
That has gone down to 150 million now, or to be precise, 152 million. So more than 100 million lesser number of children were working
that's
now
great
in the
progress.
world in last less than 20 years. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I think it's important for people to understand how many children, because that's what I was surprised with the vast numbers. And I know that personally, like the BBA has rescued how many children?
Almost 88,000 now.
And that's local, right?
They're local. They are in India alone.
Yeah, and people risk their lives to go into these, because the people are criminals.
These people are criminals, the mafia-like operations, and since they make money out of nothing, I mean, they go and steal children. They pay little money to the parents in some cases, and cheat them, just coerce them, and tell that your child will earn fortune and lead a great life and so on.
And that's kind of the other component, is like the poverty.
The poverty is the component, but then these people who earn money, they have, it's all black business, the black money, all illicit money. So it has grown as $150 billion annual income through human trafficking, and mostly children and women are the victims. So that is a global figure. We don't know much about India, the exact figure, but global figure is like the global estimate. But you can imagine that such, and if so much money is being generated out of it, and black money is generated, that fuels further crimes and violence, drugs and everything, the small arms and so on. So it was always risky. I lost two of my colleagues. One was shot dead, one was beaten to death. I have wounds and scars and injuries on all my body. My right shoulder is broken, my left leg is broken, my backbone is broken, you can find scars on all my head and forehead. So this happened, but each time they tried to kill me, I felt happier. I felt more powerful, because I could see that these people are weakening. They are weakened. They feel a threat in me, in my existence, or my organization's existence, because they are frightened with us. So if they are frightened, means they are getting weaker and weaker, and that's why they wanted to kill me. So they are scary of me. Why should I be scared
of them? And how has this affected? Because all of that, as a wife, I'm like, how did your wife and children? How are they part of this equation? I guess because for me, I'm like, I would be like, don't go. It's so scary. I don't want anything to happen to you.
That is opposite to me. If I don't go, they will kill me. So when we married, that was very clear. That was very clear to her that she is not going to marry with an engineer for living with a
You're not going into an office every day to sit.
No. She knew that he's a crazy guy.
She probably loved you more for it.
And so we collectively looked for some path, and she was the only one who trusted me, because it's a journey which began from ignorance, as we say. It begins from ignorance about the issue. Nobody was willing to listen or pay attention to it. So I kept on talking to people, said, he has become mad, what he is talking about? But I did not stop. Then the second stage came when people started laughing at me. Oh, he's mad, gave up his career and doing all these kind of things. The third thing came when people paid more attention. Some people started supporting and others started opposing. And that opposition went violent over the time. They tried to defame me. Some false cases were registered against me. Whole of my life I have been facing false cases in the courts and so on. And character assassination and all kind of things that went on. But that was the part of life. I know that they are threatened with me. So that's why they are doing all this. And that it did not work, so they physically attacked. Even the physical attacks could not deter me. So finally, I started winning.
Yeah, and the number keeps going down.
Number keeps going down, and I'm quite confident that I will celebrate the end of child slavery in my lifetime.
Yeah, me too.
You will definitely do. Yeah.
So moving forward then, what are your goals for this year and the next 10 years? Do you have any shorter term goals? Obviously we're working to end it as a whole.
Yeah. So it is now a global commitment under the Sustainable Development Goals and the Global Development Agenda to eradicate all forms of child labor by 2025. So that is the slated down goal which has been signed by all the governments of the world. So not too many years. So this is the global commitment, but I'm pushing this agenda faster. But I learned that if the real power lie with some segment of society, they are children, they are youth. We cannot bring about sustainable peace, sustainable change in the society without the leadership of young people. It is not only making them followers or asking them to be the partners. They should lead. Young people should sit on the driving seat because they are much talented people, but more importantly, they have a strong element of enthusiasm, excitement, vigor, energy, and more importantly, idealism. They have an element of idealism, which fades away over the years.
Yes, if you let it.
They start compromising on other things, and they are taught to compromise, to become more diplomatic in their talk. If they speak truth, sometimes people call them, oh, you're so blunt and you're not obeying, you're not following, things like that. So that was the complacency in the society which is taught to them. But I have full trust in youth. So I launched human history's biggest ever campaign, what we call 100 million for 100 million. 100 million young people are victims of violence. That includes slavery, trafficking, denial of education, the refugee crisis, the children who are displaced due to global warming and climate change and so on. They are the worst victims. They are enslaved, they are prostituted, they are sold and bought in lesser price than the animals and so on. That is happening. On the other hand, world has a wealth of 3 billion youth. And out of 3 billion young people, hundreds of millions are ready to take up the challenges now. They are ready to do something good for the humanity. So why can't I knock their doors and their hearts and offer them a purpose and a program to be the change makers, or just to ignite the change maker which is inside each one of them. So I'm calling 100 million young people to join this campaign. We have launched it already in 31 countries and there was tremendous response. They are influencing policies, they are writing protest letters to their governments and other countries as well, because this is not confined to their country's issues, this is global
it's a global issue.
It's a global issue. So they can also do voluntary work in their communities against bullying or sexual abuse or other kind of things. They can help poor people in their own way, collect some books, collect some money and help poor children. So they can do in many ways. But the philosophical aspect is much more deeper. What I call, this is my efforts to globalize compassion. We have globalized everything. Market, production, knowledge, technology, good. So they can be the change makers in their own locality by way of forming small groups in their schools or neighborhoods to take up such issues. But also they can join in influencing global policies. For example, some governments don't have progressive laws for eradication of child labor. And if laws are there, governments are not investing enough in enforcement, or they don't have that political will. Or many governments, or most governments in developing countries don't invest adequate money in educating their children and ensuring good quality education. So youth from any part of the world can sign up a letter, the demand letter, which reaches out to the president of that country or prime minister, that cannot be ignored easily. Some governments are making regressive laws of, decreasing the marriageable age of children from 18 to 16 or 16 to 14. In a number of countries, there is no specific legal age of marriage of children. A 70-year-old man can marry a 10-year-old girl or 12-year-old girl. So that is still existing today. So why not the youth should know about it in this part of the world and every country, and be the change maker. They can write letters to those countries that cannot be ignored by the head of the states. So also, youth are among the most vibrant and the largest consumers. So once they take up this issue and start asking their brands and companies that you have to assure, you have to certify that these products which we are buying from you are not made by child laborers, then it cannot be simply ignored.
And how do we, because I'm always, of course, watching the film, I'm like, what can I do? Oh my goodness, how do we stop? How do I take action? So if we ask a company if they are child labor free, how do they prove that to us?
They will prove it through engaging independent auditors. They can appoint some monitors. They can also engage the supply chain people in every tier, because the production is not done by one group of people. It goes down below in the villages or in the communities. So if the brands are really genuinely willing to end it up, they can put tremendous pressure, but they can also sensitize and engage and encourage their suppliers on the ground. So in both ways they can work, but that should come from the consumers. The power lies in the hands of consumers, and the youth can be very important in that. They can write letters, and so we have launched this website called 100million.org, 100million.org.
I'll link it in the description, you guys. You can hop over there and check it out.
Yeah, so that is, so people are signing up and they can get information about those brands which are using child labor. Once in a while they are exposed, and we will call them that's just to protest it and demand that they should clean it up. And also they can demand to the governments. So it does not mean that the campaign will remain confined to this age group
No,
up
but
to the age of
they have a
25.
voice.
Anybody can do it. And once these children and youth will start it doing, their parents are not sitting quiet. Their parents will support them, or parents will join them. So this way, by engaging 100 million young people, we are engaging at least 400 to 500 million people in the world.
No, that's great. And I think that's something that we can all do online. I think that's the wonderful thing about social media. I feel like if you were born later, you'd have a YouTube channel like me. Because it's a great way to reach people and to share information.
Well, it's not too late for me. I'm joining this way, actually. I'm joining this way.
If you have a channel, we'll link over.
And I'm so happy that YouTube Originals is going to launch this film, and that is very important.
Yeah, so if you out there, I encourage you to watch the film. It's very powerful. I honestly watched it without even realizing time was passing. It's so engaging, and it's just inspirational. And you'll cry a lot, so bring tissue. But the thing that we can do, and the thing I'd empower all of you to do, is to start asking brands if they are child labor free, and use the hashtag price of free so we can track it. Go onto the website, like you said, the 100 million, I'll link it in the description. Go over. I encourage you to challenge it, because on the film alone, I learned of Pond's skincare products being part of, they're utilizing child slavery. I've purchased those products in the past. HomeSense, Zara. So it's really important that we use our dollars to buy items that do not come from situations like that, because it's really heartbreaking. And if we can use our money to support what Kailash and the BBA, and they all do, all of the great work they're doing, that's one way you can donate. And also, like I said, checking out the links below and making sure that the money you do spend is spent to end child slavery and not to perpetuate it. And if you don't have money to give, you can volunteer. We all have time that we can give too. And so those are some of the ways that I would encourage all of you to reach out and to speak up and to let people know, because you're, like Kailash and I are saying, your voice is important and it's very powerful, and we can all use it for good. Thank you for
Thank
taking
you.
the
Thank
time
you
to
so
meet with
much.
me.
My
Yes,
pleasure.
I love what you do, and
My pleasure.
it's you guys know I'm a crier. I could still cry about it. It was such a powerful film. So please watch it, and please tell everyone you know about it. Thank you again.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you so much.
Of course, thank you.
You have very good heart, and you are a strong voice.
Thank you. You too. And we'll see you next time, you guys. Bye.
Bye.